It was a rough Friday night for the Metropolitans in Tampa Bay as they fell to the Rays 10-8. However, the team is hoping that their starting pitcher on Saturday will lead to brighter days ahead. So let's talk some Mets baseball. We're going to do it with one of the best Mets content creators in the game. His name is Tyler Ward. Most people call him Wardy, and he joins me now. Wardy, what's going on, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Dexter. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Glad to finally have you here to talk some Mets baseball. I know we've been following each other for a while. I'm glad we finally get to do this. So, Wardy, let's start out with last night, where Jose Quintana got rocked. He allowed 8 runs, 10 hits in 2 2/3 innings after he had a strong performance in his last outing against the Cardinals. So what went wrong for Quintana against the Rays?
So what went wrong, unfortunately, for Quintana is a lot of the opposite that we saw there in his last start. You know, in a very Metsian fashion, we go from a Jose Quintana 5 days ago or so, going 8 innings of 1 earned run ball to now not even getting out of the 3rd inning without allowing 8 earned runs. And normally you're thinking, okay, it's got to be the walks. That's the issue with Quintana, right? No, that wasn't the case here in this start against the Tampa Bay Rays. A Rays offense who struggled mightily so far this season just need to face a soft-tossing southpaw to really get themselves going. And I don't know if Quintana was tipping his pitches out all or whatever it was, but he was hating that curveball big time. The fastball and the sinkers were not locating. They were far more down the pipe than hitting the corners that he would like. And that really was his demise in this one. He unfortunately was more so batting practice for Jose Quintana that we expect more out of. And thankfully, I do feel like this was a bit of an anomaly of a start. I'm not expecting Jose Quintana to go back out there his next turn in the order and give up 8 earned over 2.2 innings either. But just an unfortunate one there to kick off that series against the Tampa Bay Rays at Tropicana Field, where the Mets have yet to win a game since 2015. So maybe that goes in hand with it. Not entirely sure, but Quintana just could not locate whatsoever. The command in the zone when it comes to walks wasn't the issue this time, but what was the issue was the pitches being absolutely flat and right down the pipe more often than not.
And we saw what happened with the pitches being flat there. But whenever you have a rough start, like you saw from Quintana, fans and the team are hoping that the next day they could bounce back. So the next day being Saturday, righty starter Christian Scott, he's going to make his major league debut on Saturday night against the Rays. What do you make, Wardy, of the Mets' decision to bring up Scott at this point in the season, and what will you be keeping an eye on in the young pitcher's first start?
Well, first and foremost, like you, Dexter, as we were speaking off air before we got going here, we were both surprised a little bit with the Christian Scott call-up. Why did it happen this soon into the season, right? And there's justified reasons for that. And it starts with one. The Mets have always had this vision of doing a 6-man rotation this season, especially once Kodai Senga is back in the fold. As we know, the earliest he can return is May 27th of the 60-day IL. But in the meantime, the Mets really want to make sure that they can bolster this rotation to the best of their abilities. And after another inconsistent start from Adrian Hauser, who's now been shifted to the bullpen, his next turn in the order, you're kind of getting the feeling of, okay, the Mets could really use a starter in here that's young, exciting, and has proper put-out pitches, and that is what Christian Scott provides. And for those that don't know Christian Scott, he was a high riser in the minor leagues this past season, was utilized as a reliever for a bit to kick off his young career, but over the past year, you know, as a true starter, has been fantastic. And it's been because of that mix-up with his arsenal there. Instead of being more of a sinker ball heavy guy, he's been more of a fastball heavy guy, which has been great with his command. Christian Scott has been absolutely dominant that we saw there in the minor leagues last season, and now so far this season. Just to throw a couple numbers at you right now, he has been an absolute thing of beauty on what he has been able to provide so far to the Mets in the minor leagues. The 24-year-old right-hander has a 3.2 ERA that we see with 36 strikeouts and only allowing 5 walks in those 5 starts and over 25 innings, and that's a heavy emphasis there. Only 5 walks. Christian Scott has been one of the best starters in all the minor leagues and commanding the zone with the walk rate, and this is a Mets starting rotation and a pitching staff as a whole that currently ranks second to last in all Major League Baseball in walks per game. You know, they're over 4 walks per game right now, if I'm not mistaken. That is not ideal for a Mets team that's trying to have more success there. And we all know how David Stearns is about building a bullpen, about building a rotation during his time as president of baseball operations with the Milwaukee Brewers and previously as assistant GM there with the Houston Astros. So to get someone like Christian Christian Scott in here, who in AAA this season has a 0.71 whip, which leads all AAA qualifiers right now, a 38.3 percentage on the K rate, a 31.9 on the K to walk percentage. Again, they each rate second in all of AAA there. He is one of the best true minor league arms that the game has to offer today, and it's headlined by that fastball that sits 95, that touches 98 there. You have the slider, of course, you have the splitty, and you have that sweeper, which has been a nice new weapon part of that arsenal, something that David Stearns, funny enough, has emphasized a lot this offseason when acquiring arms, has been looking for guys with nasty sweepers. So now enter Christian Scott into the fold, a heavy strikeout rate that we've seen, again, one of the best in all minor leagues. He has the stuff to make it at the major league level. He's been striking out everyone, it feels like, at the AAA level. So now let's see what he does here at the bigs here with the Mets. And to say I'm excited is quite the understatement.
Yeah, and you gave us great stats on that with him. And as you know, Wardy, it all matters what you do at the major league level. He's got the numbers. I think the thing that you mentioned that should be intriguing to Mets fans is his walk rate and keeping that really low. I think that's very impressive for the young pitcher. We'll see how he does on Saturday in his debut. So heading into play on Saturday, Mets, they're 16-16 on the season. So, Wardy, you know this as well, too, but lately it hasn't been good. The Amazons, they've lost 8 of their last 12 games. What do you think of where the Amazons are right now at this point in the season?
You know, I'd say they're pretty much on par with what we would have expected, right? You know, it was a very underwhelming first start of the year going 0-5, and then you have a amazing 12-3 stretch. And then afterwards, again, you're losing more often than not over the past week and a half to 2 weeks of baseball now. So what has been the big issue with the Mets? Well, I think, again, this is very much of how they were constructed. This is a Mets team that has been exceeding expectations in certain areas, mainly their bullpen. That has been their stronghold all season long and will continue to be exactly that. Their rotation has hit major strides this year early on, especially where while you're lacking length out of some of these starters, outside of Quintana and Severino, their previous turn in the order, not Quintana yesterday at the time of recording this, of course, but the Mets have been starting to get length. Outside of that, though, the quality has been there with their rotation to a degree, which has been surprising to some, but the bigger problem, again, has been that walk rate. So when you look at that, you look at the inconsistency with the Mets offense now without Francisco Alvarez for still another month and a half, and you come to the conclusion that, yes, this is a Mets team that's right around a 500 ball club that's going to be pushing for playoffs, as we know. That's hopefully going to be buyers by the trade deadline. But yes, this stretch isn't fun, but this is the normal kind of coast of a 162 season for a Metropolitan team that's always going to be a roller coaster. I mean, let's be frank here. Heading into the season, no one expected the Mets to be a certain 91 team, the same way that no one expected them to be a for certain playoff team properly, but they're right in that mix as a team where they know they're just a couple games above 500 down the stretch. They very well could crack a wild card spot. That might just be the difference for them to getting where they want to be this season as a hungry underdog team heading into postseason play. But to kick off the first month of the season, I'd say things are pretty much on par with what you would expect from a 500 type ball club.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride, as you said, but the Mets, you know, fans, they've strapped in, buckled up, whatever you want to say. They're ready for the rest of the season to see how it goes. That is Tyler Ward. You guys know him as Wardy, one of the best Mets content creators. Check out his channel on YouTube. Wardy, good to finally connect and talk some Mets baseball. Enjoy the Christian Scott debut. We will talk some more down the road.
Sounds fantastic, Dexter. Thank you again so much for having me on, and looking forward to that Scott debut. Let's see how he does.
Yes, sir. Thank you.